It's a Tuesday at 3 p.m. You know what that means. Time for another DraftKings best ball draft here in the world of Stochastic, where I, Chris Spags, will take you through the 20-round drafts on DraftKings, competing for a $15 million guaranteed prize pool, $2 million to first place as well on DraftKings. And of course, I'm already in a draft room here. Preseason is going on. Guys like Travis Etienne getting some good news in preseason, working with the first team. Guys like Breece Hall, you could interpret it as good news that he's working ahead of some guys who've been beaten down the door after him, like Braylon Allen, like Isaiah Davis. That is a multi-RB committee there. Some of the takeaways we have from the preseason we'll talk about throughout this video, but also want to talk about our 3 rules of thumb that are most important, of course, if you're new to the world of best ball. 3 things you should know that'll help you build better teams, whether you're doing it the first time or building, millions of teams. Probably not millions, but thousands of teams you could build credibly. That's what you need to know in best ball. Number 1, average draft position. You see it on the screen right now. That's like your projection for you DFS players out there, your median projection. It's a reflection of the market pricing as well, a reflection of ownership as well. Every player that's going to be in the drafted area of all these DraftKings drafts based upon ADP is going to be owned about 8% of the time. A little bit more than that exposure is what the field will have. So, all that stuff with the average draft position. And again, soaking up value in room is going to be an important part of the equation. If you have a shot to take Jamar Chase, you could also take Bijan Robinson. That's fine. You could take Saquon Barkley if you want, but you probably don't want to take a guy who's normally going in the 3rd round. If you took James Cook in the 1st round at 101, no matter how big of a Bills fan you are, it's not a good pick to make. So using ADP as sort of a marker point for everything you want to do in a draft, very important thing to do. Number 2 rule of thumb, stacking and correlation. You want to stack up even more than you would for the most part in a DFS slate. 1 QB plus 2 receivers, 3 receivers, a running back on top of that. You can sort of do that more in best ball because you're trying to capture the rising tide of saying this team scored a lot of points this year. This team won a lot of games by scoring a lot of points, ideally. Or even a team like the Bengals. The team lost a lot of games this year, but also they were competitive in them. Their defense sucked enough that multiple players could get there, including 2 of their top receivers, a tight end, a running back. That's sort of what you get in best ball. So keep that in mind, stack and correlate, build your teams, keeping that in mind. We're at pick 7 here. Christian McCaffrey on the board, obviously a PPR star in recent years, but definitely showed some mortality when he came back in after the injuries he had last season. Malik Neighbors here as well. Nico Collins here, guy I've been trying to get more exposure to overall. This is a tough spot for me. I do want to get more Nico. But McCaffrey, I still think as a PPR play, if he is the old McCaffrey, he'll look good. If he's the McCaffrey who last year got about 2.5 red zone opportunities a game, it's not a guy who's the same McCaffrey we've seen who put up fantasy highlights, was a regular 10K salary player every week in DFS. That McCaffrey's probably gone. But if he could be closer to that guy, as opposed to the guy we saw last year for about a month and change, McCaffrey will hopefully be worth this number 7 overall pick. 3rd rule of thumb here. This will be the last one before we hop and talk about everything else we'll see on the board. And of course, the preseason news that there's a lot of to dig through. Expected values realized in week 17. This is a big one, a big debate as well as how much do you count your advance rate stuff. The teams that you're getting into the playoffs, week 15, week 16, week 17 is when your fantasy playoffs are, pretty much no matter what site you're playing on across best ball. But also basically the finals is where the money's realized. So you want to have teams that advance. You want to have teams that have adequate running back capital. You want to have teams that are built soundly and have, maybe big stacks, whatever the case may be, that leads you to a higher advance rate. But you want to build teams still that are keeping in mind that all the prize money is given out in week 17. So if you advance on DraftKings in week 15, you win your entry fee back, basically. If you win in week 17, if you finish top 10, you're talking about every person who finishes top 10 wins $100,000. If you finish first place, $2 million. Second place, $1 million. So you're playing for that big exit at the end in week 17. That means building week 17 correlated lineups, building up Rams and Falcons teams, one of my favorite stacks. Here we start with McCaffrey, building out some Bears correlation for week 17 would be a logical thing to do. You're building teams that could spike late. So that means that week 17 correlation itself. That means building teams that have adequate wide receiver firepower, not going insanely RB heavy, being balanced throughout, having players that can all give you a ceiling that you need to beat out 1,000 lineups on DraftKings. It's what you're keeping in mind here for best ball. So those are your 3 rules of thumb to keep in mind if you are new to best ball and you got about 23 days left to get in all the best ball lineups you want for 2025. We're coming up on the clock here. See what this guy's doing, thinking about it. Mora Mitch here. All right, goes Drake London. I would have been happy to take Drake London. Brock Bowers, still a player that does appeal to me, though if we do take him with McCaffrey, we're certainly punting some wide receiver capital. But at this stage, I don't want to see myself going up to get A.J. Brown or Ladd McConkey, 2 guys who seem to be going later than earlier at this stage of a draft process. So I will go Brock Bowers here. Brock Bowers, Christian McCaffrey start. No receivers, but we will be able to make it up with volume coming up in the next few rounds. I should also make sure to retweet the stochastic stream here on my handle, because God knows we got to do the vague amounts of promotion that I do. Shout out to all you guys hanging out. If you are watching live on Stochastic, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you're watching on Twitter, hit the follow button as well. You can see streams like this, along with all the other great Stochastic free content, the live before locks, and all of that are coming up on a regular basis on the channel here at Stochastic. Josh Allen going early in this room on DraftKings. He goes earlier than other sites. Here you get him going at pick 20. Pretty aggressive to see that here. Probably not something I'd want to do at this stage of things, but people can do what they want to do with their money. And keep in mind on DraftKings as well, when you are putting in your first entry, you do get one for free. So good day to do that right now on DraftKings. We're also going to have another best ball week coming up on DraftKings. We'll give you guys some special bonus deals in addition to that free entry thing when you put in your first one. So keep that in mind. And if at this stage as well on DraftKings, you're thinking about maxing, one thing to be aware of is that when you do max out the tournament, you get $300 in DK credits as well for maxing out the tournament with all 150 entries. So some good deals going on DraftKings. Do download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app right now to get in some best ball lineups. I'm doing a mix of slow drafts, these fast drafts on stream, but good time to get those entries in because we only have about 3 weeks left to do it. Yeah, sadly, only 23 days left of this in preseason DFS. God's game. I don't know if I agree with the latter as much, though. Preseason DFS, I get the people that really want to play that and kick the cobwebs off, so to speak. But really projecting the guys in the preseason, always a different errand than picking out the guys in the regular season. Having projections like Stochastic's data team, I'm sure it's already hard in the lab for week one. But I like NFL regular season DFS to get them out. And best ball, one of my biggest priorities over the last few years in gambling, because unlike DFS, it's not quite as figured out. You don't have a million different providers providing similarly good tools in terms of sim products, data products, and things like that. So I get it. There's an edge in preseason DFS. It's a different news gathering exercise for sure. I cashed in the first showdown slate of the year for the Hall of Fame game. Did not cash putting in one lineup with no prep on Friday. But that's sort of the level of action I have in the preseason. It's just like, I'll throw in a lotto ticket for the 50K tournaments. Besides that, save it up for the regular season. Got a $5 Millie Maker coming up on DraftKings for week one. We got Lamar here, elite QB. Another RB with Kyron Williams, but I think we need to start to make it up at receiver a little bit. Devontae Adams, a player I'm not too concerned about the situation with the Rams right now. It's weird with Matthew Stafford, not a preseason related thing. We've talked about some of the good items there for guys like Travis Etienne in between for a guy like Breece Hall. It's been all bad news for Matthew Stafford. He's supposed to be back in practice on Monday. Instead, he was using an infrared van, I believe, which sounds even stupider out of context, but it's basically like a special healing properties van where you're in like a weird diagonal seat. His spine has been an issue, his health overall. This is frankly the thing last year with Stafford that I was really spooked about the neck injury stuff because they were talking about it all the way back in NFL draft last year and it ended up not mattering very much. This year in the same process again, where Stafford, the team has been like, we expect to be ready week one. They have missed some periods where if he was supposed to be back in practice already, he's not there. So that's not great. But still, it's a thing that he's dealt with for the last few years at the very least. So it's not a new thing that he hasn't worked through in the past. People are now downgrading Puka a little bit. You see in this room, Puka did not get downgraded here. He went at pick 8. But Devontae Adams is reliably going at one point in the top 30. Now he's going more so mid-30s range, in part because people are afraid of Stafford. I would say from how I view it, Jimmy Garoppolo, not a guy who was really great in his last few stints. In particular in Vegas, I think the stink of that one carries a lot. But Sean McVay has been a good coach who has really revitalized the career of guys like Baker Mayfield, and Baker now looks like a much better prospect than at that stage of things. But he was on the Rams. You got to remember that year he got cut from the Panthers. It was one of the worst QBs in football. McVay got him back on the right track, and I would say, groomed him to be ready in the good way, not in the, the island way. Groomed him to be ready for, a kind of job to be able to be a starter for Tampa Bay to kind of reinvigorate his career. Now you're getting Garoppolo, who is a little bit older, a little bit more in the scrap heap than Baker Mayfield was, but Baker was dead to rights. And I would say McVay revitalized his career. I think no matter what, you're going to see these guys be very valuable in PPR with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams if you get Jimmy Garoppolo starting. So I think Stafford will still be starting the vast majority of games, but if he doesn't, I just think it'll be fine because you're trusting the coaching there. I think trusting coaching is one thing people don't do enough in best ball, and so the most important things for me and how I view the game. So I trust Sean McVay in building an offense as much as anybody. We're coming up with another pick here. Again, we have one of each category. A little too balanced, I'd say. We got Mike Evans here. I think will help us make up a little bit at receiver. Nice ADP value as well. 7 spots after ADP. Happy to take Mike Evans at this stage of things as wide receiver 2. Definitely an older receiver room with Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, frankly McCaffrey as well. The best days are behind him. But we got young Brock Bowers here who will keep them aware of trends, tell them TikTok dances. You look at Brock Bowers, you immediately think this guy's good at TikTok dances, and that's what he'll do for this room. He'll keep him young. I did in fact say not groomed in the island way. Well, because here's the thing though, is grooming wasn't always pedophiles. I should be saying this 10 minutes in on the stream, but just for the record, grooming can mean, oh, we made this QB better. We developed him for a few years. It used to be a thing they would say about QBs, and now you can't use the word groomed. You can use groom for a marriage context. Not all grooming is creep grooming, Grooming can still be grooming a QB to be good or a running back to be good. You just can't say that word anymore. I'm taking it back. I'm not taking it back. It's just, got to use different words sometimes. Anyway, some early picks here. TreVeyon Henderson, I got to say, and I get it on the PPR site more so. I get being stoked. TreVeyon Henderson shows some juice, 100-yard kick return, very exciting, all that. The thing that people are missing for New England, and again, the bet is that people think TreVeyon Henderson will take the entire role. I understand that. But Ramondre Stevenson still getting all the serious adult carries in that first preseason game here. The starters were playing for New England. TreVeyon Henderson showing some juice, has shown some touchdown upside as well in training camp based on the reports from the beat guys. But there's still a back who's getting paid $10 million a year on the seam. Ramondre is not getting paid nothing, and he is more of a traditional between the middles tackle kind of back. I think TreVeyon Henderson, you want to take your shots at him, great. But third RB here when you need to make it up at receiver, and frankly, for this guy, Tyreek Hill is wide receiver 1 with how the winds are blowing in Miami. I don't want to have my season living and dying on his back. I don't think that's when you reach and go super early for TreVeyon Henderson, is what I would say. But people can follow their hearts. We are behind the 8 ball at receiver a little bit. Rashee Rice could miss 8 games, could miss 4 games. I think at this stage, though, Rashee Rice represents kind of a unique opportunity. So I'm going to go Rashee Rice here. Rashee Rice, wide receiver 3 for me. A player that I did not get a lot of when he was going top 20-ish range. Now trying to get a little bit more when the dip's available, and especially if I feel like my receiver room can withstand it. I'm not sure if this room where we did start receiver a little bit earlier and we only have 2 of them is a perfect Rashee Rice room, but I don't think he was coming back to pick 66 here, so I'm taking Rashee Rice now. And Hampton and Henderson to the moon. I would agree with the Hampton part a lot more than the Henderson part. I think Hampton at pick 28, that's a steep price tag, but you have nothing blocking him from being a lead bell cow back and a guy who also pretends well as being a 3-down back because he could pass protect well. He was actually better in the pass game at UNC than a lot of other backs in that class were. I think you make the case. Well, let me look at the numbers so I could say this full-throatedly. Pulling up my RB college data for the year. All the data I use is from Sports Info Solutions as well for stuff like this, the advanced analytics. Okay, so Marion Hampton in the pass game last year, 18 routes a game, was targeted 20% of the time he runs a route. So that's league average of the pass catching back in the NFL. For comparison, TreVeyon Henderson, 12 routes a game, 19% target per route run. Marion Hampton had a 42% missed tackle rate in the pass game. TreVeyon Henderson, 23%. Marion Hampton, a 0.36 EPA per target. TreVeyon Henderson, a 0.09. I think Hampton absolutely being a wheels up play, I support. Henderson being a wheels up play, I just don't agree. I think James Cook sometimes goes behind Henderson now from what I saw on stream earlier today. James Cook should be ahead of Henderson safely. I think Breece Hall should still be ahead of Henderson, even if you have the most fears about that being a committee backfield, because you're getting Breece Hall still being the lead back in the committee and enough Lions things being imported with this offense that it should be good. Henderson, to me, being priced near Harvey, that was fine. He can move up a little bit, but I don't think Henderson going reliably top 40 would be correct. And I strongly feel that way. Hampton being top 25, sure. As long as he's behind Bucky. I think Hampton should still be behind Kyron, but that's me. Anyway, 0-1-3-1. We've got McCaffrey as our lead RB right now. I still believe in DeAndre Swift, though I do think we need to make it up at receiver a little bit more because, again, Rashee Rice could miss half the year, and we do want to be mindful of having a team that has a good advance rate, even though Rashee Rice in week 17 obviously should be giving us a lot of upside. I'm going to go Deebo Samuel here. I think people are down on DeAndre Swift. I get it. I'm not down on DeAndre Swift, and I think it might be fun to have Swift and McCaffrey having that week 17 correlation at running back as opposed to having it with an RB into some pass catchers. But that said, I think we need to get a little more in for receiver, and Deebo Samuel, to me, I've said on every stream I do, basically, I think Deebo Samuel scores 10 plus touchdowns this year for Washington because that's what, to me, they left in the field last year, giving touchdowns to guys like McLaurin. That wasn't really a perfect fit for him. McLaurin will score his on downfield balls, but Deebo taking some of the slant routes, the goal line routes that McLaurin had last year, that's much more natural Deebo, I think, situation than it is for McLaurin, even though McLaurin did do well with it last year, for whatever it's worth. Missed the draft. Damn, I do. Again, if you join my my OddsShopper Tails package or my Splash Play YouTube channel, you can find out whenever I'm doing a draft. I do tip people off in advance there. CMC, scared money don't make money. I would take him as high as 4. I don't think that's a scared money not making money situation. That's a taking a player that people are less scared about because he's old and because he's done it for 6+ years. That's not scared money. Like, scared money would be not taking Gibbs over him. Leaning into injuries for backs around 30. I mean, look, I'm taking Joe Mixon a lot, but the price tag is him at pick 100. McCaffrey will literally make or break your season as a first round pick. I just don't think that's a scared money making money thing. Like, I don't know. You can follow your heart. Wookiees, I know you're in a lot of these drafts, or Wookie rather, you're in a lot of these drafts, and I'm sure you know what you're talking about. And if you like McCaffrey, I get it. If you think the Niners are going to be great this year, then make your bets on McCaffrey. But they did shift away a lot of red zone work from him last year. And you talk about a guy that had over 5 per game last year. You're down to having about 3 and change, I believe. No, less than 3. He had 2.8 red zone opportunities a game last year. Granted, it wasn't the entire season, but less efficiency, lower avoided tackle rate, less red zone work. There's nothing McCaffrey showed last year that makes me think he's coming in this year to be the same guy he was. And I think that's smart money. We got Tampa Bay here with Mike Evans. Would love to get some more in at RB at this point, but I think some of the other players make more sense to me and how I want to build the team. So I'm going to go Baker Mayfield here. Get us not an elite QB, I think, based on ADP, but a player who did score reliably top 10 pretty much every week last year. Guys still like a good amount this year as well. Baker Mayfield, QB1, and we still only have one running back through round 7. So a little bit lighter at RB than I've been in general on stream this year and overall for my portfolio. DK dropping a flash sale. Are they right now? Let's see. What is it? What's the promo? I'm looking on the app. We'll give DK the plug if they have a flash deal going. Is there an email about it? I got no alerts here. Is Andrew just getting some VIP hookups for himself? Yeah, I don't see any flash deal, but let me know in chat if you see one. Jordan Addison, now a 3-game suspension. That's official. Kind of odd that Addison's suspension's been announced, but Rashee Rice's is not yet. Probably means there's more deliberation over it, if I had to guess. But Addison getting 3 games, I thought was a little bit on the heavier side. I know that was what initially the earmarking was for. So his ADP moving downwards, it's people double counting the suspension, I think. But I thought because of the fact he did some community work, he did Mothers Against Drunk Driving after getting caught for a DUI. I thought maybe they'd get him off a little bit lighter, maybe a 1 to 3 game suspension, or I guess hoping more 1 to 2, but he got 3. My fear now is because he got 3 that Rashee Rice gets more like 6 to 8. If I'm taking Rice, I think that'd be the concern point. But Addison getting 3 games, I feel like was already accounted for in the ADP, and the upside's still massive. So this guy had scored 35 points in a game last year with having Jefferson available. We need more at RB, though. Brian Robinson, I think, is an easy click for me. People are down on him. People think Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt might take his job, which I'll say, I think it's a fundamental lack of understanding of football, if I'm being real about it. And I say this, too, as somebody that's done that work to understand, how football works analytically. I ran Football Outsiders, ran it into the ground. I ran it while it had its best years, unfortunately, traffic and profit-wise, but the company that owned it had spent too much money and couldn't pay off its loans, basically, is what happened to Football Outsiders. The point being is, like, I've worked with football teams. We worked with the Chiefs when they won a Super Bowl. I worked with Aaron Schatz, who, for as many flaws in that process, is one of the godfathers of football analytics. Teams pick specific players for specific things a lot of times, and they often don't want other guys to do those jobs. So there were touches last year that Brian Robinson got that Austin Eckler would get. There are also touches that Brian Robinson would get that Austin Eckler never did. Corey Krosky-Merritt is a lot more of an Austin Eckler than he is a Brian Robinson. He's not a power back. And Brian Robinson, for whatever flaws he may have, he's a guy that was trusted in the red zone, getting over 3 red zone rushes a game, still 0.3 red zone targets, nothing special there. He's not a high avoided tackle rate guy at 13%. You're talking about kind of a Joe Mixon level runner, but he's like a bruiser back. And that's sort of what these teams, in particular Washington, who is like a very trust heavy, we have the guys we like, we're going to use them in the same situations kind of team last year, including keeping Zach Ertz ahead of a guy they spent good draft capital on at tight end in Ben Sinnott. That's what the team was. And there's no reason to think that this team, after it went to the NFC title game, is going to overhaul things. And I get people get excited for the young names or whatever, but there's been a lot of talk this week from, I think, some sharp people out there, Adam Levitan, I think one of the guys in particular, who encapsulated it pretty well. People are really buying in on the rise of 7th round rookies this year more than ever. And I know we saw Bucky hit in round 5. That was one of my big bets last year. So I get it to some extent, but like, they're not, running back doesn't work in a way where that happens very often. And if Krosky-Merritt kills this year and beats out Eckler and beats out Robinson, I'll be wrong. And you guys can all come laugh at me and fucking knock me down in the clown dunk tank that I have set up just for these occasions. But if Brian Robinson if he's healthy and he doesn't get you quality red zone work and probably 15 carries a game, I'll be shocked. It's because guys like Krosky-Merritt don't usually get to that level of volume because they're not built the same way. They're not intended to take that level of volume. I strongly believe that. And I strongly believe there's a lot of errors being committed, unforced errors by a lot of the field this year. Jarquez Hunter, guy that I mentioned on stream, people took it endlessly in drafts. And I would see teams on Twitter, screenshots of teams that people post. They're posting Jarquez Hunter as RB4 in every team. And it's like, there's probably a running back ahead of him, Blake Corum, who does more of that traditional bell cow workload. That's the same thing for Washington. Brian Robinson, traditional bell cow. If he goes down, they're probably going to mix in Jerry McNichol before they will a guy like Krosky-Merritt. And doesn't mean you can't take Krosky-Merritt, but it's like it's gone too far the other way where Brian Robinson is now getting fudded down. And I just don't think that's accurate or a good way to draft either. We're trying to make it up at RB. Joe Mixon, another guy I think allows me to make it up. And look, maybe this is showing me that you don't want to agree with my takes as much because I'm taking Joe Mixon here. I'm taking Brian Robinson, and you'd rather take Krosky-Merritt. You'd rather take Woody Marks, a guy who was dog shit for my alma mater, USC, but maybe he'll be good as a pro. That's how best ball goes. Like, you might be right. You make your bets. But the important thing is to come about it as earnestly and as well preparedly as possible. And I think a lot of people are not doing that this year. And that would be one of my biggest caveats for best ball. Because there's a lot of money to win. And if a lot of people do dumb shit and you don't, you'll probably win more. Team right now, though, is going to be Baker Mayfield, Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr. We got Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice. So Rashee Rice really the big risk in this receiver room, along with starting receiver later. But the fact that Adams was a faller, Mike Evans was also substantially after ADP. I think this team looks a little bit better for it. Elite tight end was Brock Bowers. We also got Deebo Samuel to give you some more touchdown equity, hopefully, for Washington. And then Joe Mixon, I just think it's entirely too cheap. A guy getting over 20 touches a game last year. Bell cow backs are bell cow backs for a reason. Foot injury, I get people are concerned, and it's lingered a little bit longer than you'd want to see for sure. But every beat reporter for Washington has said he should be able to go week 1, if not week 1, week 2. There hasn't been talk about putting him on the PUP list. Mixon, I think, should be good to go. That's a risk I'm taking on. Ollie Gordon, late rounder on DK. He looks better now that Madison has a neck injury, but I don't think he's like a shoe-in for anything. You're going to have Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon competing for whatever Achane leaves behind. If I had to guess, Ollie Gordon does things a little more differently than Achane, but take him in a 20-round draft if you need an RB7, but I wouldn't have him be like a meaningful part of my portfolio. And you think the minimum for Rice is 6, 8 seems likely. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't intoxicated, which is usually a stiffer fine. Wasn't domestic violence. Was stupid. And yeah, nobody got killed. It's a dumb thing to have to say out loud, but All right, looking at the team here. Don't think it's a QB spot for me. There's another guy I feel pretty comfortable with if I'm going to go this way. So Darnell Mooney, really not great quote from Raheem Morris came out, I think this morning, might have been last night. But Raheem Morris talking about Darnell Mooney saying like he'll be out there at some point this year, which is not what you want to see for a guy that we're expecting to be available week one. That said, I really do believe for Darnell Mooney, he represents an important part of this Atlanta offense. And as much as Drake London, I think is going to be one of your highest target earners on the year by a pretty wide margin. Like I think it's going to be him and Neighbors, two guys who stood out to me based on the underlying metrics. I think that those guys are going to be dominant this year in terms of target earning. Nico, I think similar in that range. The point being, like when they do double Drake London, when they do bracket cover Drake London, ball's got to go somewhere. And Michael Penix is a natural downfield thrower. So Mooney, we're playing for week 17 here. I don't know. He's a perfect wide receiver 5 normally on a team where we have, Rashee Rice. And he's going to miss some time. But I think Darnell Mooney should be available to go, if not week 1 early enough. And I'm not going to worry about hopefully bad verbiage from Raheem Morris talking about him being available at some point this year. It's odd for a player with a shoulder injury to miss that much time, especially at receiver. At QB, like in Anthony Richardson, I get that more so. But at receiver, I just don't know how Mooney misses that much time. So that's a bet I'm taking on the way down. He and Chris Godwin, 2 guys I've taken a lot of the injury discount on. The Amari Cooper announcement to attend Vikings camp on a PTO. Suggests maybe the Jefferson injury is more serious. No, he's been running around camp. I didn't see what you're talking about with Amari Cooper, though. I've been on stream for the last 3 hours, so that did not pop up my feed. Amari Cooper, though, I would say is largely dust based upon how he played last year. I also don't know what you're talking about, Amari Cooper PTO. Did he visit? I'm not seeing anything about Amari Cooper on Twitter. But Amari Cooper last year got targeted a lot with Deshaun Watson. You want to give him cover for that? That's fine. When he went to Buffalo, he also got targeted enough and was absolutely awful. I am also somebody on stream who talked about taking Keenan Allen in every single draft. So I have no issue taking a vet who's unsigned. I don't think Amari Cooper, though, has much upside at all. And I haven't taken him once. So I don't agree with any pro Amari Cooper thoughts that you might have. 1-3-5-1 build here. Ramondre goes. Jordan Love coming down because of a thumb injury on his non-throwing hand. I'd be happy to buy the dip on that if it makes sense. But I think we need an RB the most here. And Javonte Williams is your lead back for Dallas. It's very odd. In particular, an underdog. I've seen Javonte Williams going at 150 in rooms lately, and I've scooped it up when I've had the opportunity to. He's your lead back for Dallas. People find Jaden Blue to be fun as a rookie. I get it. He's a young guy. He's definitely got a little more juice, it seems, than Javonte Williams does at this stage of things. Miles Sanders, though, was previously the back working in the first team evenly with Javonte Williams. Javonte at pick 127 here compared to a Trey Benson. And I like Benson, but Javonte shouldn't be falling. I don't get what we're seeing right now that would make you think he should fall. Maybe if you love Phil Maffa a lot, I guess you could think that he'll somehow beat out everybody there. But Javonte, to me, as a wide receiver or as an RB4 for this team, I think works pretty well. And I think in particular, if he's your RB4, RB5, you're doing fine. That's a legit starter who goes a little bit too late sometimes. Zach Ertz going early here at pick 130. Yeesh. Nobody has ever called a professional tryout PTO, Michael. I don't think in the entire history of the world anyone's ever called that. PTO is paid time off for 99% of Americans. And the word PTO is not a thing that any reporter has ever used or said out loud. You can't just make up things and say them. I appreciate the confidence in you saying them. That's not that. Is there much ADP difference in Cook and Walker? Yes, a little bit here. In this room, Cook went at pick 39. Walker went at 36. Normally, it's more like Cook going. Normally they're both going around 40, but Walker in this room went really early. So Walker seems like he's been falling a little bit because he does have a lingering foot injury. That said, I'm happy to take Walker if he comes up. I'd take a little more Charbonnet because of any vague concerns I would have about that lingering. Oh my God, what is this guy doing? Ertz at 130, Rodgers at 135. Stupid. Fortunately, Penix went early as well, so we're going to have to get creative at QB. Oh, what is this guy doing? Come on, make the click. There he goes, Christian Kirk. Fine click for him. PPR, wide receiver 5. Think that is a good spot for him in a best ball team. I'm going to take Jordan Love here and try to backstack him. Green Bay is an absolute mess right now. So this came out before the stream happened. I was catching up on things between my try draft alon on my Splash Play pod channel where I do a draft on DraftKings, Underdog, and Drafters, all the big tournaments. I saw that, I guess, Romeo Doubs got hurt today at practice, has a back injury. So probably not that serious, but it could be. We don't know. Jordan Love is out of practice right now because he's getting thumb surgery. Again, not throwing hand. So to me, if Jordan Love is going to go in this Penix range, I would definitely scoop up some Jordan Love, try to backdoor stack it. Wicks is still out of practice with a calf injury. And basically people are reading this right now as like, and I think actually Savion Williams as well, the rookie. He's also hurt for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with him. Christian Watson's on the pup list as well. Green Bay's just down a ton in receiver. And like, as a result, Jordan Love's coming down. But the weird part is that Matthew Golden's going up. And people on Twitter were talking about Matthew Golden a good amount, basically saying that like he's now going to benefit so much because of the fact that the receivers are hurt for Green Bay. I would argue that Green Bay right now is looking a little bit like a dumpster fire. And if nothing else, a team that's probably going to commit even more to running the ball when they were very happy to run at a very high rate last year and a very low pass rate over expectation as well. I think even it's kind of weird that those two things to me, like I don't want to take a rising price for Golden, but I'm happy to buy the dip on Jordan Love. I would keep taking Jordan Love at this point because he'll be good to go week 1. It seems like injury on the non-throwing hand doesn't matter that much. But also you have good backdoor stack partners here. We could still get Dobbs. You could still get Wicks for free late. I am more of a believer in buying the Love dip than the Golden rise, but those kind of seem like those don't go hand in hand. So I just think it's odd that Golden's being steamed up and people I think are sharp are so like Golden should be a top 60 pick. And it's like he was a 20% target earner in college. You don't usually go from being a low target earner to being a great one. Maybe he gets 25% as a pro. And for Green Bay, that'd be, wide receiver 1. But it's not like an actual wide receiver 1, And I think that's part of things that I see differently than a lot of people. But whatever. We got Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love. Getting sniped on Penix really threw off the feng shui for this team for me. Been trying to build more 3 QB builds, but I think we could use the 5th RB right now as well. So Braylon Allen playing behind Breece Hall, playing in line with Isaiah Davis, not a great thing. Michael, I can't with you. Enough with PTO. It would have been way more efficient to just say try out. And I think a million people out of a million would tell you that. I appreciate your efforts to prove yourself right. Worst thing you could do in best ball though. Anyway, thoughts on Sam Darnold. I feel like didn't somebody ask me the same question on my last stream with the exact same typo. Darnold's big issue is going to be that he's got injury guarantees late in the deal. If Seattle's not in the playoff hunt, they'll bench him, much like the Giants did with Daniel Jones. Russell Wilson for Pittsburgh or for Denver previously, another situation as well. That was very similar. That's your big concern point for Darnold. So if you think Seattle's going to be a good enough team, I think Darnold's fine. I think really for me, Darnold comes into play more when it's like, I really need a 3rd QB and I have ways to get Seattle guys late. You have Torrey Horton late, who's a late riser guy who didn't get great draft capital, but fits a lot of criteria I look for. Great target earning in college. Probably fell mostly because of a knee injury that he couldn't control, but was great the year before that. So Horton's rising. Arroyo's not rising, but you could take him or Barner late. I think that's where Darnold makes the most sense. But if you're getting, to me, if you're getting JSN, if you're getting Cooper Kupp, I would try to stack the other part of that week 17 game. Bryce Young has little to no bench risk. I mean, he's a guy that's more likely to get a contract that you hate how much he's getting paid than he is to get benched, I think, at this point. But he's a guy, we saw him look in the preseason again. He came on strong last year. And Carolina, whether they're good or bad, Bryce Young probably plays out the year. So I would take that instead of Darnold. But, if you're down to no options and you need a QB, then take Darnold and just, take him with a 3rd QB ideally. This room, though, with people taking Rodgers early, Penix early, the feng shui is definitely off. That's accurate. Amari's been collecting PTO since 2023. That's the way to use PTO. That's perfect. Oh, thank you for this one. Is his middle name Richard? I didn't know that. I didn't know he was he had a dick inside him. I didn't. I didn't know that about Sam Darnold. Even though he played for USC, I did not know that. All right, we've got Rams correlation here, so we are going to go Matthew Stafford. I could try to push him around, but I think we want the third QB here. So Matthew Stafford, come on down. Losing out on some stacking options potentially. Well, we'll see what we get back. The team right now, 3 QBs, 5 RBs, 5 wide receivers, 1 elite tight end, and Brock Bowers. I wish Dobbs had the Q tag on him right now because of hurting his back, because that would increase the odds of him coming back to me. But he apparently was good. So Dobbs not even a DraftKings preseason Q tag, it seems. But I'll say it out loud, even though, yeah, this guy, he went. In a perfect world, Dobbs would have come all the way back to me because he got hurt in practice today. That was what I was hoping in my head. I perhaps could have taken Dobbs at 162 here and push Stafford back around. But frankly, these guys were taking QB completely uncorrelated. So I kind of needed to get a QB in. That's how I felt about it. Best ball in August, though, is really one of those things where your ability to push QBs and really players in general, the spots that are most advantageous to you, if you could do that, it's going to make your teams a lot better because of the fact you're getting players that really get competitive in certain ranges. Like I would say for me, Dobbs at 165, he was a player that a couple of weeks ago was surging up to like the 140s. Now he's coming back down because he got hurt today and because people are talking themselves into golden, I guess. I don't know what the case is really for that. But being able to get him here in this range, he was a guy that previously was priced more in this Josh Palmer range, but I think it's totally fair for him. I made the wrong choice in who I picked here. Like, I think I should have gone Dobbs, then try to get Stafford here. People are more scared about Stafford. I guess the better way to sum that up instead of the long-winded way that I did. But a 2-5-5-1 here. We still want more at receiver. Still do need more at tight end as well. But I'm going to go Xavier Leggett here. I think he's paying a bit of an unfair ADP discount right now. People love Jalen Coker, who did have the nice preseason game. Caught one long pass, caught a touchdown. But Leggett also got kicked out of that game. So that's something to keep in mind, that Leggett's been operating as a wide receiver too. Has also infinitely better draft capital than Jalen Coker. At this stage where they got drafted in the same class, Coker was a UDFA out of Holy Cross. Leggett went in the first round. So Leggett, they're going to give shots to win this role. And ultimately, I think Leggett's a little bit undervalued at this point, even though I fully get the fact he hasn't shown enough for people to want to be excited about him. But Coker didn't get drafted before him here, but it wouldn't shock me if Coker steams up to the same range as Leggett. At that point, you should be taking Leggett far more, would be my thought. Big tight end run here. Kind of surprised to see Mason Taylor go early, given the fact that he has an ankle sprain right now, and usually DraftKings drafters do hate taking a tight end early, but it seems like it's our guy Braden, so I guess he's a little bit sharper about the injury stuff. I'm not sure why you'd take Taylor over Likely. Whatever. And guys, if you're watching this video, please do show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe here. Of course, Stochastic, crushing it in the world of DFS. But this summer, we've been doing some best ball as well. Thankfully, they chose me to be able to do that this summer. So do show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe here so the engagement looks good. And hopefully DraftKings will not only let us see through the summer, but also pay for next year. It'd be a great thing as well. And of course, there will also be an MLB Live Before Lock coming up later today. Looks like it's Greg and Eric coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to tune into that. That'll be your next and last video of the day here on Stochastic, it looks like, based on their schedule. And of course, DraftKings here, you know the deal. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. When you do that, if you haven't played any best ball entries, you get your first entry, you get a second one for free right away. So that's 2 shots at $15 million in the prize pool without ever putting a single change to a lineup in. So check it out on DraftKings right now. All right, we want to get some more in at tight end. I also could take the 6th RB at this point. And I think get week 17 correlation as well on the RB situation. So Roschon Johnson, another guy as well. Same thing we were talking about from people maybe getting a little bit ahead of Leggett with Coker in some situations in draft rooms. Same thing here with Roschon, where people, if I had to guess, somebody's probably going to steam Kyle Monangai up and take him up in round 17. Kyle Monangai is a round 7 running back who played at Rutgers. So we're talking about not great competition there for him, which is a big part of what I look at data-wise, but also a guy too that in my opinion, is not anything special. The athletic testing, nothing special either. So a guy who is, in my opinion, just a guy. Roschon Johnson played at Texas, and in a lot of metrics graded out very similarly to Bijan. He had less workload, and he certainly has not shown it in the pros so far in the 2 years he's had. But for Roschon, there's been reports that he's your third down back. There's also reports that he's your goal line back. Those are things that matter a lot. And for some reason, like, because the RB2 role might be modern guys, like modern guy might be the direct backup for DeAndre Swift in terms of being like your lead back. People are now not taking Roschon at where he was ADP wise. He's also had a foot injury, so I get that if that's the reason why you're not taking him. But like, there's still a pretty big opportunity when you have goal line touches and when you have third down opportunity to get PPR here on DraftKings. So, like, if you're telling me Roschon versus Justice Hill, who is your RB2 in Baltimore, versus Woody Marks, who's probably your RB3, maybe even RB4 in Houston. Jalen Wright, who is seemingly facing legit competition for Ollie Gordon, though not getting competition anymore from Alexander Madison, who broke his neck, or had a neck injury that he had to get surgery for. I guess he didn't necessarily break his neck. Point being is, like, Roschon is as good of a click as anybody in this range, and he'll fall sometimes to 200. I am team Roschon here, and I have a lot of him already. So big believer in Roschon. Not big believer, but like, more of a believer than Kyle Monangai by a wide margin. Let's see. Is Mason back on the field? Okay. They took away his Q tag. I didn't see any Twitter reports about him being back in the field, but I'll trust you on it. Still wouldn't steam him up, though, past the other guys here, to be honest, but more power to him. Fewer people to compete with his looks. Sure. I mean, you got to remember, though, for likely, and I really strongly believe this, likely for 40% of DraftKings tournament was going top 130, and he's going to miss like 1 or 2 weeks, it seems. Maybe things get bad. He goes on the pup list. He misses a month. We're playing for week 17. I would still take the guy who at one point had a market-based 130 ADP, and now he's going at 175 over a guy who had him throughout the entire draft process, had like a top 200 ADP, and you're taking him a little bit earlier. But you're in enough streams, Braden. You can do what you want to do. I am my brother's shepherd, you know? Pick coming up here. We do need our second tight end, and tight end did get bled out a little bit around the turn here. We have the bets on Houston a little bit, so Dalton Schultz would not be crazy. I do prefer Jatavian Sanders to Schultz, though, and Freiermuth as well. Freiermuth, I really don't get why he's higher than those guys, to be honest. Sanders at least has a very obvious pathway to being tight end 1 for Carolina. So that's that. The late round bargains on tight ends. Would Seattle or Arroyo get game flow with the... okay. So, Michael, I feel like you're missing a few weeks of time here, but Arroyo at one point got steamed up a bunch because of the fact that Noah Fant got cut. The issue, though, which we saw in the first preseason game for Seattle with all these guys going, was that Arroyo is not going to be trusted for blocking right now. He probably was never going to be trusted for that. So AJ Barner is probably more the click who gets closer to every down work. People still take Arroyo. You see somebody here took Arroyo at pick 189. But really, if Arroyo's there late, I could take him. I'm not taking much Barner. The guys I would take late are the ones, the one that I took here, Jatavian Sanders. If you need a tight end late, I think he's a strong one. Juwan Johnson, a strong one. Gesicki's falling right now because he's a hamstring injury. That doesn't matter at all for what we're playing for in best ball. Getting him at pick 194 feels pretty good to me. Freiermuth I could live with. I would like him more if you have Aaron Rodgers. But he's an okay enough click. I just think that getting excited about Freiermuth, I think, would be an error because Johnny Smith's going to take away a lot of the red zone opportunity. There's a couple more that I might take on this team, so I'm not going to say them out loud. Higbee is one I will not take on this team, but Higbee is a good one as well. People were afraid of Terrence Ferguson, who got okay draft capital and was a freak athlete based on the RAS testing. That said, Higbee was so highly used last year by the Rams when he was healthy. I didn't think he was going to get supplanted. And based on camp so far, it's all Higbee and then some Ferguson working in occasionally, I think. But even that, I might be overreaching by saying that. It's mostly Higbee for the Rams. And I like Mason Taylor for what it's worth. I just think it's more being price sensitive to certain things, especially when we are drafting teams the entire process. That's the difference between somebody who's coming in like in August versus somebody coming in like me who drafts the moment all the tournaments open, both for content and for my own gambling. Is that like you have, a lot of guys you buy in different price windows. When the guy is like, coming down, and it depends on your exposure, but I have enough Mason Taylor in my field stacks. So like I started taking less Mason Taylor, mixed it up with more late tight ends. That's what I would try to do generally when guys are kind of on the way down. But whatever. All these guys at tight end, functionally very similar plays. Schultz comes all the way back. I think a 7th receiver would be nice here. You have Javonte, so Miles Sanders not a bet. Actually, a lot of guys I would take at this point. Darius Slayton's one of them, though. We have the little bit of a bet on Las Vegas with Brock Bowers, so I'll get some Week 17 correlation with Darius Slayton. We have Stafford stacked up. I have not been able to get any stack partners for Jordan Love at a reasonable ADP, so we'll see what we get for Jordan Love here in the last few rounds. There is one more tight end I would highlight as a late guy. Noah Gray's one I don't mind either. Think that he mixes in a good amount. I don't take him a ton at this point because there's better tight ends, but there's still a few I would take at this range that were on the screen. I would not take Taysom Hill. I'll say that. Taysom Hill, a knee injury that occurred towards the later part of the season, and he's over 30, and they paid big money to Juwan Johnson. All right, so there goes one. Theo Johnson goes, Higbee goes. These are guys that, to me, I think are good late clicks. If you need to make it up a tight end, good in a tight end 3 build or a 3 tight end build, good in a 4 tight end build, especially if you could pull that off in a 20-round draft. We don't need to do that, obviously, because we have Brock Bowers. But I'm curious what we get on the way back. Late rounds on DraftKings have been pretty tough. In general, guys that I like late, Torrey Horton already went, so I could say him out loud. He's a name that's getting clicked more frequently now. He goes earlier on Underdog as well. I don't know why. He should be priced the very least the same amount on DraftKings, but DraftKings doesn't catch up sometimes because drafters are a little bit less sharp, to be totally candid, which is a good thing for you guys, but a bad thing for ADPs moving sometimes when they should move. Surprised Monangai didn't get drafted in this room. People have been loving Monangai lately. Come on. Shador goes. Good game for Shador this weekend, but he is still QB4 on that depth chart. Marshawn Lloyd back in practice. I love him, and if you watch streams, you know that. But Darren Waller came all the way back, so he was a guy I was thinking about clicking there. I think Waller should be valued above guys like Theo Johnson. There's a very big role left behind by Jonnu Smith leaving town, and I do think it's not a great thing for Waller right now that he's not back in practice and full go and getting some camp hype. But for Waller to go after all these guys, I just don't think is correct. Like, take the risk, take Darren Waller a little bit more because Jonnu Smith is leaving behind one of the best tight end roles in football. And that's it. And Miami's a dumpster fire, though. So, like, I kind of get it. Like, Waddle's hurt. Tyreek Hill's kind of going nuts. Neck injury for Madison, who was one of the best players they had in camp, apparently. It doesn't seem great, but in that chaos, hopefully the retired guys somehow can thrive. I'm not, this is not a baseball stream. I've not prepared baseball today, so unfortunately I cannot give you that answer. But you know who can? Is Greg Ehrenberg and Eric Lindquist coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern, so watch those guys. Two of my best friends in the biz who I like a lot. Hung out in person with Eric Lindquist before. Not Greg, though, unfortunately. But I appreciate you asking. If I'd prep the MLB slate, I'd give you a take, but I'm not prepping days for MLB where I'm not actually doing a stream for it. No, I will say, though, you guys won't know and don't care, I'm sure. I had to fill in for EMAC a week and a half ago on Saturday because EMAC was out of town for a live before lock on Saturday. And I got 2 home run picks right in that stream. I got Christian Yelich right, and I got Christian Walker right. It's a great day. So I gave out great takes on a Saturday that nobody was watching. But today I got none for you. Coker going here in round 20. It's crazy. He's going around 16 on Underdog, and he's going around 20 on DraftKings. How these different sites compare, I'll never be able to explain. I love to hear this from Fish Flip Hoop. Just watching these shows have shown me why I've sucked Balls in previous years, confidence up now. I'm glad to hear it. A lot of it comes down to, and frankly, like I've built teams that have done well and made finals and like have won me enough money to feel good about it. Cleared 5 figures last year in profit. Like I felt good about my best ball haul, even though I had some really catastrophic injuries. That said, the biggest thing that I've learned is like building balanced teams and being up on news are the 2 best things you could do for yourself. In particular now with how ADPs align, like getting some RB capital in that matters. Pretty important thing. We've got a 2-6-7-3. Jalen Noel's hanging around for free. I'm not crazy about him. Raheem Mostert is your RB2 for Vegas. And I think that's not a bad click on this team. So I'm going to go Mostert here. Because Wicks went, right? No, Wicks was still available. I'm an idiot. I should have taken Wicks. Wicks RB8 would have been a little bit better, or wide receiver 8 would have been a little bit better, but instead we take the RB7. So final team here was an unstacked Jordan Love. I wish I'd gotten some stack partner with him. We got Baker Mayfield, Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson. Again, feel pretty good about Robinson at pick 90 here. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice. We did take an elite tight end in McCaffrey, but still got pretty good receivers in despite that, especially if Rice can survive long enough with his suspension. Tight end Brock Bowers, like that. Deebo Samuel, think it's a strong wide receiver pick. Joe Mixon at pick 100 is an RB I would scoop up every single time it's available. As long as I'm not totally behind at receiver. I think Joe Mixon is way too cheap at that point. Darnell Mooney here, getting another guy I'm buying the injury discount on. Javonte Williams at ADP, a little bit of a value on Jordan Love because of the fact he's got that thumb injury. Why did it move me up? Braylon Allen filling out the RB room. Matthew Stafford is correlated with Devontae Adams and our bring back of Darnell Mooney. Xavier Leggett fleshing out the receiver room. Same thing for Roshan Johnson at RB. Jatavian Sanders, tight end 2. Darren Waller, tight end 3. And Darius Slayton, Raheem Mostert, all guys who have projections. And that's the big thing here is like people take swings on guys like Lambert Smith, even though Keenan Allen being there absolutely ices him. People take swings on guys like George Holani because he had one good preseason game. Take guys who actually have a shot at having a role. Like Mostert is your RB2 for Vegas. They're like, that's it. Take a shot at him. Take a shot at Jalen Noel, I guess, more than some of these guys. At least he at one point, went top 100. There are clicks you can make late always, but I think right now people got too excited for some of the brief preseason flashers, so they're now forgetting there are guys who probably have actual opportunity. But that's my takeaway for it. Of course, guys, I'll be back on Thursday for more. But make sure you do download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. Big thing on there is you get your free entry when you put in your first one. That's 2 entries you get right away. 2 shots at $15 million in guaranteed prizes and $2 million to first place. The biggest prize you'll find in the industry, or right up there with it, is on DraftKings this year. So check it out. DraftKings download the app. And of course, follow my channel at SplashPlayPod as well. I'll link it in the chat. We're also going to show you a little video from Greg Ehrenberg in a moment. But check out the Try Draftalon stream I just did on my YouTube channel at SplashPlayPod, where I did a draft on DraftKings, on Underdog, and Drafters, because it gives you a good perspective on how to handle the preseason riders and all that across every platform. And that is my goal here. There we go. Drop that in there. But let's listen to Greg Ehrenberg talk to you about best ball and the things you need to know legally, of course, which is always fun to do here on this video.
It's best ball season, and DraftKings is giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million best ball contest for just $20, and you'll score another best ball ticket to play free for a share of $15 million, giving you a second chance to win big. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million and get a second ticket to play free for a share of $15 million. That's 2 chances to win big without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions do apply and void where prohibited. 1 per customer. Enter the Best Ball $15 million headliner contest by September 4th, 2025 to get 1 bonus entry. $20 entry fee required. Reward expires in 30 days. See terms at DraftKings.com/NFL-best-ball, sponsored by DraftKings.
Beautiful read by Greg. He does that live every time he calls in. I hit a button. I'm like, Greg, you're on. He's got to do it. He crushes it every time. I do appreciate all you guys hanging out here. Again, if you want more takes from me, watch my @SplashPlay pod channel, my video on there. Make sure to draft on DraftKings. You guys know that. And stay tuned. 6 p.m. Eastern, MLB Live Before Lock coming up. So I'll be back on Thursday at 3 p.m. again doing another draft. Come draft along with me on there. Let's get some drafts in, guys. You got 23 days till the NFL season starts. So get excited for NFL DFS. But also, if you want to get your shots, the big money on DraftKings, some of the other sites out there, now's the time to get your entries in. Try to plow away a little bit if you're not 150 maxing. So that's the takeaway here. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck, and go draft some best ball teams. All right. Bye, guys.